Hey, what's going on out there? It's Dr. Jason McCammon, board-certified naturopathic doctor and functional medicine practitioner, coming to you today to talk about bugs, microbes. Yeah, not the bugs you see crawling around, but yeah, microbes, little bitty guys that you can really only see with a microscope for the most part. Let's talk about microbes. It's so important because we have this war against microbes generally in the Western nations in America, where we think if we just kill the microbe, we're going to be good to go, right? Completely wrong, completely false, absolutely not. Wrong way to go about it if you're just looking at, napalming or just bombing your microbes in your body. You think you can just take like antiparasitics and heal. No way, not going to happen. So let's talk about what the truth is about microbes, okay? So first let's define them just to give you some idea what we're talking about here. So we've got viruses, which are really super microscopic. They're really just mostly genetic code. That's really what they are. They don't do a lot on their own. They have to hijack the host DNA to actually replicate more of themselves and cause problems with the immune system. They're good at that. A bacterium, which means bacterium just means one strain, but of course there's literally thousands, probably more than that we don't even know about. And again, I'm not saying these are all good or bad. Just hold off on that. I'll teach you that in a second. Nematodes, which is one of the largest class of basically worms. Okay, now some of these you can start to see. Some are really microscopic, like little flukes, right? Microscopic little guys, even the adults. And then some of the bigger roundworms you can actually see if you have an infestation with those. Protozoa is another one, really tiny little organism. And then we have fungi, which you probably know, kind of like you have some yeast, right? We've got some molds like black or white mold, green molds, all kinds of molds. So that's just generally, there's more than that, but guys, I want to just tell you about things I see in clinical practice most often, okay? So what's really going on with these guys? We've been in coexistence with all these microbes for all of human existence. Think about that for a second. Like, how did we make it with no conventional medical treatment for thousands of years? How did we even get here? Our ancestors would have had to survive their environment for us to even be here. Yes, they had much higher risk of infection. I'm not making light of that. It's a very dangerous life, the caveman life in all those tribal communities. It can be very dangerous for sure. And I'm very grateful for emergency medicine, absolutely. I think antibiotics was an incredible invention when it's used correctly, okay? But again, the idea is that we've been living alongside these synergistically for a long time. So all of a sudden, why are we getting into this like anti-germ thing, okay? Yes, there are some pathogens that are nasty, but more importantly than their potential pathogenesis is what's called the terrain. So we're going to get into that in just a minute. But I want you to understand that we are a big petri dish, okay? Because we're mostly water-based, we're warm, we've got dark crevices, okay? And we've got a food supply coming in. And, so these microbes are going to live in us. So I want you to get used to the fact that you are a giant petri dish, with a head and a mouth and a personality, but that's what you are. And you're outnumbered, okay? We might have 100 trillion cells in the body. We're going to have several trillions of these microbes. You're outnumbered. So think about it from a DNA perspective. There's more foreign DNA in your body than your DNA right now as we speak in this minute. So how you treat the larger organism as a whole will predict your health more than even how you treat your own organism. Isn't that incredible, right? So it's so important. And we'll unpack this as we go. But just understand, you're going to have these organisms in your body, and there's really not much you can do about it in terms of them coming into your system. Does that make sense? In other words, let's take like the COVID-19, for example, okay? SARS-CoV-2. So that thing that causes COVID, the actual illness, right? Really, it's worldwide. Everybody's going to have some of that in their body. So people may say, well, I never got sick with that. Or, I didn't get it for a couple years and then I got it. Actually, the truth is, we've had this, for quite a long time, many years. Whether you get sick or not with symptoms does not necessarily correlate with if you have the microbe in your body. So I want you to really understand that. There's people that, have staph in their body and strep. Again, I test for this as a functional doctor all the time. They have it in their body, sometimes for years, as far as large levels. It just hasn't been a problem. There hasn't been an actual infection, clinical infection, where they get, really sick from it, like hospital sick, but yet you still have it. So don't think, guys, just because you don't have a symptom for a microbial overgrowth, an outward clinical symptom, you don't have it. Remember, we're carrying all these different categories of microorganisms in our body all the time. I'm gonna go a step further and tell you about parasites just for a second, because I know that's a big hot topic and kind of gross you out a little bit. You cannot eat clean enough food, like no matter if it's organic, sustainably raised. You wash it really good. You put the, we do this at home. We do the, like the vinegar, in the warm water, add the baking soda, and all the stuff comes flying off. It's really cool. You should do that to get your produce cleaned up. We'll talk about that in another video, but you can do all that you want. Guess what? You're still going to get some parasites in your body, whether you like it or not. It's coming in. No matter if you eat vegan, if you're a carnivore, it doesn't matter. It's coming in. The idea is that we want a terrain in our body such that they don't set up shop. That's the key. And what I'm seeing clinically with patients is that we're ingesting the microbes, but one issue of many, they have so little stomach acid, they're not able to actually break down the microbe to a small enough level that then your immune system can handle the rest of it, and then it becomes transit, which means it comes in and goes right out the backside. Low stomach acid, poor enzymes, now they have undigested food going to the bowel and feeding a colony or a family of microorganisms that are setting up shop, and they're just loving it. They're kicking back, like an apartment, got a pizza coming, got some Netflix. Like, that's what we're creating for these microbes. It's like, wait a minute, you don't live here. Again, you're allowed to come in and pass through and keep on rolling, but you don't really live here, okay? So we're always going to get microorganisms in the body. The key is your terrain, internal terrain. Can it break them down to a small enough quantity or colony that they don't set up a huge, infectious disease colony? Because again, they're going to come and go. It's just the way life is. You're not going to beat them. Okay, you just have to outsmart them, and that's what we do in functional medicine. So, talking about a little bit more things we can talk about is the germ versus terrain approach. Okay, conventional medicine. Now, there's a place for this, right? If you have ever sepsis, if you know anybody that's had sepsis, it is life-threatening. Like, you can die in minutes, if not under an hour, if you get a blood-borne infection. You need antibiotics, you need them now, okay? So that's really important. That's where medicine shines, conventional medicine shines. Unfortunately, they've turned chronic infection that's not immediately life-threatening into, again, hey, let's use the same weapons we use for acute infection when you're really sick with sepsis, or you have an infection in your leg and it's like turning colors and hurts, right? We're gonna use those same drugs for chronic infection. No, you can't do that. It doesn't work like that. But they're using the same weapons for that, guys. You see the problem with that? It just destroys your ecosystem, your gut microbes, which are already probably not doing good. It destroys them even more. And now we're even more behind the 8 ball and more infectious chronic disease comes up. I see this a lot with my Lyme patients that come in. One patient was on antibiotics. I've seen this actually several times for months. I'm talking, they put a port in, a PICC line, and put her on months and months of antibiotics, and it still didn't do a darn thing for her. In fact, some patients, it makes them even sicker. Okay, we'll talk about that in the Lyme video. But the idea is that you can't just keep beating on the germ. You have to look at terrain. There's actual clinical studies showing when certain microbes come in our body, they actually change their function based on our environment. And you know what number one is? Mental health. Number one is mental health. Your mental health and what you think upstairs creates electrical current in your brain. That creates a magnetic field in your body, and that magnetic field can dramatically alter what microbes do in our body. So that's why you can have the same microbe go in one person's body, they're fine, and then the same microbe go in another person's body, makes them sick. That's why. It's the same bug, guys. It's the terrain. So really get that home. If you learn nothing else today, it's the terrain. It's the internal ecosystem, starting with your mental health and going obviously into gut and other parts of your body. That determines if we're going to have a virulent pathogenic microbe or not. Because I'm telling you, even healthy stuff like Candida yeast, for example, I'm sure they're here to Candida. If not, there you go. Okay, now you have. There's over 40 strains of yeast endemic to the human body. Candida is just one of them, but we actually need Candida. It actually balances other microbes, other parasites, other bacteriums, okay? The problem is if we are too friendly to the Candida rather, and we are creating an environment that it loves, it's gonna overgrow into a fungal infection. Now we have major problems in the body, okay? So let's understand that it's really not about the germ anymore, it's the terrain, because any microbe, even the healthy one, okay, can overtake your body. Like we're supposed to have healthy levels of E. coli, yet we hear E. coli only when there's an outbreak like at a factory or a restaurant or some food poisoning. We hear of, oh, E. coli bad. No, not at all. There's all these strains that we need to ensure are healthy in our body because they balance other strains. So it's about balance. All right, very good. So some things we need to talk about here briefly. One of the biggest things that I've learned through literature and really studying this over all these years is your gastral or your gestational route as a baby, when you're in utero, and then birthing, colonization. So if we can try to make sure our environment is really healthy before we become pregnant, when we become pregnant, that'll help your baby so much more, give them a boost in life. If not, obviously they're going to be cultured with these strains that are maybe a little bit of a problem, right? They're going to have a little bit more tough health issues. I've traced people now I'm working with 40s and 50s and 60s back to their birthing experience, believe it or not. Another big one is birthing through vaginal birth, where we're going to get culture with, again, typically lots of good bacteria and organisms versus a C-section. Now, I'm not vilifying, I'm not judging you. If you got to have a C-section, we want you and baby to be safe, absolutely. But if we can do it naturally, if we can do it vaginally, let's do that. Because again, there's so many reasons for that. I'll go into a birthing video later, but one of them is these microbes that are implanted and colonized into this baby. Brand new life. It's not sterile, but it's pretty close, right? We need to put cultures in that baby. Research is showing that we have this endemic culture that we get colonized in our gut, mostly in our body, that is mostly obtained between 0 and 2 years of age, so birth and 2, okay? Now, believe it or not, there's a lot of credible research that's showing that once we get beyond 2, it's really tough, if impossible, to shift that microbial environment, believe it or not. So that 0 to 2 is so important. And if you've missed that window in your case, obviously not your fault, you're a baby. I can try to do my best to help you fix that. I'm really good at helping fix GI problems, so I got you there. It takes time and takes some serious work ethic, but we can do it. Anyway, but we want to think about that if you're looking to have children or have a young one, okay? Another big one is breastfeeding. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, you only breastfeed. I mean, if you don't, it's, you're a bad mom. Not at all, okay? You got to do what you got to do. I totally get it. There's so many different situations and this and that. And, people that have issues with, women have issues with their breasts and making milk production because of their nervous system and their stresses in life. I get it. But if we can at least breastfeed at least a few months, it will tremendously help the infant, again, culture that belly, okay? Early trauma is a big one as well. If we're going to be an infant or a baby, pretty much anywhere between 0 and 7 years of age, and we're in a traumatic environment. Now remember, trauma doesn't have to be even physical abuse, just witnessing trauma, hearing really strong language, with people with a lot of anger in their voice, witnessing things being thrown. Like, you won't really see a baby always react to that when it's like way over across the room, but that big loud noise that they're hearing, that's shocking to their system, guys. That's traumatic for them. And they're gonna have to create coping mechanisms to then survive their environment. So any of that trauma, it's gonna change your nervous system, and that's gonna change your microbes and how they integrate in your body. So that's just kind of some of the things that we need to talk about when it comes to microbes, okay? So you really have to have a really good functional medicine approach to understand what microbes are doing in your body. Are some imbalanced? We call it dysbiosis. Most likely, yes, if you have chronic illness. And so this is so complex, you really got to work with a professional. You really do, to understand all the nuances. Just taking a bottle of probiotic is not going to cut the mustard. It's not going to help you. In fact, sometimes it can make you more sick because it's battling other cultures that are already trying to survive themselves. Okay, so there's a lot to it, but there's a lot that can be done to help improve your terrain. Okay, I recommend you check out Dr. Jason ND. That's drjasonnd.com for more information and to see if we may be able to help you understand what's going on with the root cause of your illnesses. And we do offer a free Zoom call. You guys be well. Take care. Bye-bye.